AITA for telling my unborn baby's dad he will not be in our daughter's life? My now ex-boyfriend broke up with me when I was 5 months pregnant. He said he was no longer happy, but he would be there 100% to support me and the baby. He said there was no one else and it was just he didn't feel happy anymore. He was very absent when it came to appointments and schedules, work things over these days, including if we had scans coming up. We had a scare when baby was showing signs of decreased movements, in which he didn't show up to the hospital for. I have some concerns about how we are going to co-parents, and when asking him about them he just shows no interest in having these conversations with me. I asked if he was seeing someone else, as he has shown no interest in this pregnancy, and he said no. I asked him to swear on our baby's life and he did. Well, 2 weeks ago I found out he was lying and he was seeing someone else. After catching him in this lie, he told me he was sorry and he would do better, but it's been weeks and still nothing. This is really hard, as this pregnancy has been the worst experience of my life. I've been so sick and put on bed rest, so out of work for the past 3 months, and I have just been alone throughout the whole thing. Not only that, but he swore on our baby's life and still lied. I can't deal with it anymore. I told him that I was going to do this alone and he would not be involved in this baby's life at all, as he hasn't been around for the pregnancy. He asked me to change my mind, but my mind is already made up. I don't want my daughter to be around all these lies and letdowns. I told my mom about it and she thinks I'm being selfish. So am I the asshole? This is obviously a long story cut short. Edit. Sorry, this is my first time using Reddit, and when I tried to post this the first time I had used too many characters, so I had to make the story shorter. For the people saying I'm just upset he's in a new relationship, this isn't the issue at all. The issue there is that he lied about it after we had discussed we would mention new relationships to each other, as they could potentially be in our daughter's life. This is something we both agreed on, not just me wanting to know about his whole dating life. I know he can go for custody, but he has stated he doesn't want to, as he can't commit to that due to his work commitments. Instead, he will just see her when he has the time. I really don't want that for my daughter. The scare of decreased movements wasn't just a quick checkup at the hospital, it was happening over a few days, in which I informed him about, and when I decided to call my midwife and go to the hospital I told him about. I was there for close to 7 hours as they couldn't detect movements and needed to do some emergency scans. At this point I was already deemed high risk, which he knew. I was texting him what was going on and I wasn't getting any replies, and when I asked if he was coming to the hospital he said I'm too busy. If you have been in this situation before, you would know how scary it is and how much you would want the father of the child to be there in case something awful did happen. Now the comments. AITA. You don't have the legal right to deny the natural father access to his children. He can simply prove paternity and, unless you can prove him unfit, he will pay child support and be in the child's life. And you don't get to deny your child their parent because you felt betrayed by the father. It's irresponsible, vindictive and childish. Next comment. Op didn't care if he were with someone, they cared that he's lied to them. I think they only asked him in the first place as he was showing no effort or intrigue in the baby even when its life might have been at risk. Op wondered if it was because their interests were on someone else. He lied and has been this whole time. It's not about him dating, it's about him promising he'd be supportive and be there for the baby but then doing none of it. It's about him lying and swearing on their child rather than be honest. He lied as he knew he was messing up and letting down Op and the baby. Not by dating but by simply not giving a damn or caring if she lost their child. Op has a right to not add him to the birth certificate, and if he wants then he can take it to court. Fine, we all know that, and Op does, but his actions have shown she doubts / we doubt he'd expend that much effort. If she's made peace with this and can get by without him contributing, then fine, don't name him as father. It's a good way of ensuring crap parents who won't do anything for their child don't auto get access to mess up the kids by promising to show but never actually doing it. I've seen the effect that has on a child. So Op commented. I told him to take me to court over it if he wanted to see her, and he said no, as his work commitments will make it hard for him to have any custody at all. He would just see her when he has the time. I would rather my daughter not have to go through that. Next. Speaking from the perspective of a child that had to visit their bio dad on his terms, that happened up until I was 8 and then he disappeared, and it took literally therapy to tell me I wasn't the reason for this. So as a near 30-year-old now and mother, please protect your baby from that life if he truly doesn't want to put in the effort. I wish you and your sweet baby girl the best. Not the a-hole. Next story. 27M and my wife 26F have been married for 2 years and have been together for 6. As context, I was repeatedly raped by my brother's babysitter when I was around 9. She would grope me, force me to remove my pants, and then either stick my dick in her mouth or try and give me a handjob whenever my 4-year-old brother slept. Most of the time I was paralyzed and couldn't do anything to stop it. She would always buy me sweets or video games for my DS as a reward. So in a weird way I started growing attached to her and would try and seek the abuse if it meant getting her rewards. I knew whatever she was doing was wrong, but she would always threaten to take my life if I ever told my parents, so I never did while the abuse was actively happening. Everything stopped as soon as she graduated college and moved states. I only realized how fucked up the things she did to me were when I was around 14-15 and understood the concept of consent. When I tried to open up to my parents, strict Catholics, it never ended well. First they blamed it on porn and claimed it corrupted my mind into imagining these things happening to me. If I claimed I was telling the truth, my dad would beat the shit out of me and my mom would ground me. I tried opening up to my friends, but their reactions weren't any better. My male friends just called me lucky and asked if the BJ was good. My female friends claimed I was just lying to get attention and laughed in my face. I learned to just try and forget the past and vowed to myself that I would never mention this to anyone again. Now on to last week. Me and my wife had heard some good things about this show called Baby Reindeer on Netflix from our friends. Going into it I knew it revolved around sexual abuse and stalking. In my mind I thought I was over the past and I could handle watching the show no problem. Big fucking mistake. At the end of episode 4 I was literally on the verge of tears and I felt all the supposedly forgotten memories come flooding back. At the end of the next episode I couldn't hold it in anymore. My wife paused the show and just stared at me. After a while I did finally manage to calm down a bit. She asked me why I was crying and I just let everything out. She said she was sorry, hugged me, and we went to bed soon after. I apologized to her the following morning for ruining our night. From the moment I let her know about the abuse I felt something change in our relationship. No more kisses when I came back from work and no more initiating anything intimate from her side. She wasn't mean or anything, but I felt like something was bothering her. I tried to apologize for maybe making her uncomfortable, but she would just claim there was nothing bothering her and I was just being paranoid. Yesterday me and my wife got into a pretty heated argument about her lying about taking out the trash, but during the argument she said something that floored me beyond belief. She literally said, "At least I'm not lying about being raped, you fucking narcissist." I literally couldn't process whatever just came out of her mouth. She tried apologizing right after saying that, but I just packed a few clothes and left to stay at my friend's house. She tried calling me several times since, but I haven't bothered picking up and have blocked her for time being. I know I might have trauma dumped on her and I know women aren't into that, but I just want some sort of acknowledgement/support. I don't have anyone left to turn to with this and that's why I'm posting here. I had 2 therapists to date and both didn't seem to help much. I'm gut is telling me to divorce her, but she's genuinely the love of my life. Throwing away 6 years because of this one moment doesn't sit right with me, but Ike. Wibta for divorcing her? Am I actually the asshole here? I would love to hear some of your guys' opinions on my situation, and if you've read this all the way through, thank you, heart. Now the comments. AITA. You did something brave by opening up and she threw it back in your face. I'm sorry that you've faced such rejection your whole life. Unfortunately, that is all too common for men who have been sexually assaulted. It's up to you to decide if you want her back, but either way is valid. And NTA, as a CSA survivor, the turning point for me in my marriage was when he told me to get over it, and it's been so long. We are now divorcing. While it wasn't the sole reason I left, knowing that he wasn't a safe space for me anymore, if at all, was a driving force. So while I won't tell you to leave her, I will say you do need to speak with a professional regarding the assault and keep her at a distance while you work through your emotions. She can never take back what she said to you and there needs to be consequences for that. Next. I was abused by the boy next door. He was probably 15 when I was in kindergarten. My parents found out and just kinda made it go away to never talk about it again. They never told the guy's parents. My mother also tried getting me to message this dude like 20 years later saying he was looking for me. Like, WTF is wrong with parents? I'm sorry for your abuse and hope you are able to move forward. Also sorry that you're going through this with the person that is supposed to be there for you. It might take her time to process everything. I would consider a real conversation. She seems to believe that guys cannot get raped. Don't go straight for divorce until you try everything you can so you have no regrets. Good luck. Last comment. No, she didn't just use it to throw back in his face. It's also not something as simple as her not believing him. She used his childhood trauma of being raped to re-victimize him, call him a liar and label him a narcissist. In other words, she used the information to abuse him mentally. Literally nothing about that is okay, and I can't imagine any path that leads back from something this horrific. This should be a wake-up call for the op, that he chose someone who could so effortlessly turn his trauma against him. It's almost enough to make me wonder if he unintentionally chose someone with similar qualities as his former abuser in his wife. This is going to sound extremely foreign to the op because of course he would never do that. Unfortunately, the unconscious human mind can be a wildly fucked up and twisted place where up is down and down is up. I would be interested in knowing whether the wife has any physical traits of his former abuser, if she rewards him for doing sexual and non-sexual things, or if she has said really off-the-wall things before. It seems really improbable that he coincidentally chose a person capable of abusing him on a deep and profound level after already being subjected to tons of abuse, gaslighting and even beatings related to abuse as a child. Op needs therapy before he even thinks about re-engaging with his wife because there is a lot to unpack here. Op, please do not consider going back because you are worried about throwing away a years-long relationship. That is the sunk costs fallacy in action. Also, I'm super worried that her ability to love you and be intimate with you changed after learning of your abuse. His initial response might have been empathetic, but her pulling back the way she did was stranger and indicative of a larger problem. NTA. Proceed with extreme caution. Consider a therapist who specializes in sexual abuse trauma and childhood for adults. So not the a-hole. For more stories, please subscribe and don't forget to hit the notification bell. Thanks.